So you've rolled your ankle. Before you grab the ice or slap on some deep heat, here's what actually works in the first few days post-roll to help it recover faster so it doesn't drag on for weeks. What's going on, guys? Danny from Skateboard Strength, and I help skaters from all around the world fine-tune their bodies so they can skate better, longer, and with fewer injuries. My free ankle program has been downloaded thousands of times and helped just as many skaters get back on board as quickly as possible. In this video, I'm going to show you the mistake that most skaters make directly after they roll an ankle and exactly what to do instead to speed up recovery.
Front salad, back salad, front blunt.
There's a lot of myths and outdated advice when it comes to ankle rolls, and it usually starts somewhere around here. The R.I.C.E protocol, or rest, ice, compression, and elevation, once thought to be the gold standard in recovery, has actually been debunked. Even the guy who originally introduced it to the industry, Dr. Gabe Merkin, has since come out and retracted his stance on its effectiveness. You see, swelling isn't necessarily the enemy. It's part of your body's naturally healing process. It kickstarts the healing process, flooding the area with everything it needs to rebuild and recover. When you throw ice on it straight away, it actually slows down this process. Yeah, it might numb the pain for a bit, but long term, it can actually delay the recovery process. Now, I'm not saying that ice is the devil and should be avoided at all costs. It can definitely still have its place. Ice can help take the edge off the pain that you're feeling directly after the roll. This can be a big help for those in extreme pain just trying to get a good night's sleep, which, by the way, does boost your recovery. Either way though, those old school protocols of icing every 20 minutes in order to speed up recovery are a thing of the past. So with that being said, what actually works today? There's a new approach floating around called peace and love. Now, you don't need to remember every letter and what it stands for. It's just a better way of representing what we have now come to know that actually works. Not resting it completely, keeping it moving, and loading it in an intelligent manner. After you roll your ankle, the goal shouldn't be to stay off it completely. It's to use it as much as you can without making it worse. Now, it's important to address that one thing that catches most skaters off guard is just how much the ankle can swell. It's wild. It blows up fast, looks absolutely brutal, and makes you think that you've done some serious damage. But a lot of the time, it's just your body doing its job. The ankle sits low, gravity pulls fluid down, and the area doesn't generally have a lot of muscle in and around it to clear out swelling efficiently. So even a moderate roll can look way worse than it is. The next day, it's usually already settled right down. This is why it's important to not allow the swelling to scare you into doing nothing. Give yourself 24 hours if it's really blowing up before you start attempting to do these two things: general movement and weight bearing. You want to start exploring light, pain-free movement as soon as possible. Things like ankle circles, pumps, or tracing the alphabet with your foot. The key with all of these is to work within your restricted range of motion, gently pushing the edges of what's possible. Discomfort is okay here. Use a pain scale aiming for a rating of 3 to 4 out of 10 as a guide of how far you should be pushing it. The goal shouldn't be one big rehab block each day. It's about consistent exposure to movement throughout the day. This helps the joint from locking up, improves circulation, and brings back that range of motion. Next is the weight bearing side of the equation. You want to try and walk as soon as possible, but depending on the severity of the roll, it might not be ready for it yet. Still, the act of trying, done properly, is the exact stimulus your ankle needs in order to help its recovery. Here's a simple progression to follow. Initially, if your ankle roll is bad enough, you might need the assistance of some crutches. This is totally okay. They will be used and utilized in the rehab and building back strength of that ankle. Initially, you can explore putting some light weight onto that ankle, allowing the crutches to deload you and build some basic strength. From there, you simply start using less and less of the crutches and start putting a little bit more weight down through the ankle. Eventually, you'll find you're using the crutches very minimally and putting majority of your weight down. This will eventually lead you to some light assistance from your fancy pimp cane. And finally, just resuming some normal walking. Another helpful tip is as you're trying to improve your walking in the early stages with your crutches, you can begin experimenting with just placing some light weight down onto the foot using the assistance of the crutches to deload you. Eventually, that will lead to you placing more and more tension on the foot to then being able to try and potentially get your other foot off of the ground, and then eventually just less and less loading through the crutches. At every stage, focus on moving well. Don't ditch the support early if you're having to force it or walk with a limp. The goal here is quality mechanics, not just ticking the boxes. Now, I know this might seem really simple, but this is hands down the most mismanaged part of ankle roll recovery I've seen after assessing hundreds of skaters over the years. Get this part right and you won't need the fancy creams, the the ice protocols, or the pills and potions being sold by the snake oil salesman online. The final piece of the puzzle, you need to follow a proper plan that restores mobility and function at the ankle, builds back proprioception and strength, and finally exposes it to plyometrics so you're actually ready to skate again. And for that, all you gotta do is download the free foot, calf, and ankle program. I've linked it down below. It includes an ankle roll specific plan that you can start straight away that will guide you through the entire process. Not only this, but it also has bonus phases to help you unlock flick, power, and pop so that your ankle comes back better than ever. Hit the link, download it for free, and make sure you message me like all of these guys did when you start getting amazing results.